Good evening, everyone. Dr. Stefy ma'am, if you have joined, please unmute yourself and make your camera on. Dr. Stefy K. Jose ma'am, are you listening to me? Dr. Stefy K. Jose ma'am. Please unmute yourself, make your camera on. It's time to start now. Kusum Jose ma'am, who joined, if you joined with the name, kindly unmute yourself, make your camera on. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Stefy K. Jose ma'am, kindly reply if you are joined here. It's 2 minutes late now. Kindly unmute. We have to start the session. If you are joined with another name, kindly reply. All participants are requested to stay. Our speaker is joined now, replied she.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Sir, can I kindly share the PPT?
Yes, you can share. I will introduce you.
Yes, sir. Just give me a second, sir. Let me just make a try. Sir, is the slide visible actually?
Yes, visible. Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the Veer Maheshwar Charitable Trust, MS India, organizing daily international webinar series. In this series is running from last 5 years, and in this series, speakers are invited from India and abroad. Every day, we are listening from various speakers on various topics.
So you are not audible actually.
I am audible, ma'am. Check your connections, please.
Sir, we cannot hear you.
You are audible, sir.
I am audible. My another is joined from my mobile, and that is audible, but video is not showing the audio. So today we have invited Dr. Stefy ma'am, who is assistant professor at Aloysius College, Edathua, Kerala. And the topic is Beyond Boundaries, the Power of Interdisciplinary Research. And subtitles are Insights from
Hello,
Ethical.
sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am. That's why I have requested all speakers to test before one day or before few minutes.
Dear participants, can you kindly respond? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am, but your speaker is not working, I think. We all are audible. You can rejoin, please. You can join from mobile also, and you can test the webinar.
Thank you, Chandani. Sir, can I start with the session?
Yes, you can start. Yes, you can start.
So you're not audible. Can you let me know,
The problem is with your technician, ma'am. With your system, there is problem. All are audible to me. You can start your speech.
Sir, I think she is unable to hear you.
I hope I'm audible, and let me begin the session. So, good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Stefy I'm working as assistant professor in the Department of Commerce, St. Aloysius College, Edathua. And first of all, let me express my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. BETKAR sir for inviting me for taking up a session into this international webinar series. Thank you so much, sir. And let me also make a special mention about the Veer Maheshwar Charitable Trust, Latur, Maharashtra, for taking up this kind of initiative on account of women empowerment. So with this, may I proceed with the session? Yes, so today we are going to discuss a subject that I believe will redefine the future of social science research. So the topic is Beyond Boundaries, the Power of Interdisciplinary Research and Social Sciences, Lessons from Ethical Consumerism and Theory Triangulation, which is my own research. I hope this slide is also viewable. Yeah. So let me start with a question, in fact. Thank you so much for your response. And in fact, I cannot hear from any of you. So I think when I raise questions, if you could text in chat box, it would be really great. So the opening question is just how many of us believe that, the biggest problems revolving around the globe, like climate change, is only an environmental issue? Or again, when we talk about artificial intelligence, is it merely a technological issue? Again, when talking about poverty, do we think that it is purely an economic problem? Or consider ethical consumerism. Is it simply a marketing phenomenon? So the thing is the answer is, of course, no. So none of these challenges belongs to a single discipline, in fact. Each of them is actually very deeply interconnected with economics, again with psychology, sociology, philosophy, political science, technology, the public policy, environmental science, and of course, increasingly with the data science and artificial intelligence. So that realization has fundamentally transformed the way how we conduct research. So today, the world's most significant problems no longer ask us, which discipline do you belong to? But instead, they ask, can you integrate knowledge from different disciplines so as to solve or bring forth solutions to complex human problems? So that is precisely where the power of interdisciplinary research begins. So, the next thing is, of course, why this topic matters. So, we are actually in an age unlike any other previous generation. Never before has humanity generated so much of information. And again, never before have we possessed this kind of advanced technologies. So, and of course, we are being embedded with the most powerful analytical tools at the same time. Yet, paradoxically, our problems are becoming increasingly complex. As mentioned before, climate emergencies, digital inequality, misinformation, ethical dilemmas created by artificial intelligence, again from marketing point of view, consumer exploitation, environmental degradation, global pandemics. So these are all not isolated problems anymore. They are interconnected systems. And interconnected problems cannot be solved through isolated thinking. So Albert Einstein once observed that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So that kind of an insight, which simply means that these lasting solutions for the problems require a new perspective, or we need to bring forth fresh ideas. In a nutshell, like we'll have to bring forth a different way of thinking than the one which has caused the problem. So that kind of an insight has never been more relevant than it is today. So to start with, like, just allow me to share a simple story. Like, if we imagine like a patient who's entering into a hospital, and a cardiologist is there who is going to examine the heart of the patient, a neurologist will examine the brain, a psychologist is going to study the emotional health of the patient. At the other end, a nutritionist analyzes dietary habits. So, again, an orthopedic surgeon evaluates the bones. So, every specialist performs an excellent examination here. Every report is scientifically very much accurate also because they are all very much qualified. But yet imagine if none of these experts spoke to one another, then how would the patient receive the best possible treatment? So they are not going to receive the best possible treatment. Because while each specialist understands just merely a part of the problem, no one fully understands the person as a whole, the physical body of the person as a whole. So research often faces a similar challenge. For decades, many of us have become highly specialized. But specialization is undoubtedly advanced scientific knowledge. For no doubt, it has advanced scientific knowledge. But at the same time, excessive compartmentalization can also create fragmented understanding. So here comes the role of interdisciplinary research. But at the same time, you need to have a clear understanding that interdisciplinary research does not reject disciplinary excellence. Instead, it connects disciplinary excellence. So that is the magic of interdisciplinary research. It encourages the researchers to see a complete true picture rather than the isolated pieces of the puzzle. So let's now talk about the changing landscape of social science. So as we all know, like traditionally, social sciences evolved as separate disciplines. Like economics studied markets, anthropology studies culture, psychology is all related with the human mind. At the same time, sociology examines social relationships. Political science is all about governance. So each discipline developed remarkable theories. They developed remarkable methods and analytical frameworks. But these contributions remain indispensable. But society itself does not function in disciplinary compartments. Because a consumer does not make decisions using only economics. A voter does not behave according to political science alone. An entrepreneur is influenced not merely by finance all alone, but he's being influenced by psychological aspects, ethics, the technology, the public policy, the culture, and every of this stuff influences an entrepreneur. So in a nutshell, we need to have an understanding that human behavior is multidimensional. So therefore, our research must also become multidimensional. That is the point right out there. So here again, why interdisciplinary research is actually becoming so essential. So that's a point right out there, because around the world, leading universities and funding agencies, they prioritize interdisciplinary research these days very specially. And why this happens? Because they actually recognize that transformative discoveries often emerge where disciplines intersect. So say, for example, like history offers, what do I have to say is like, we have a strong historical background which offers us remarkable examples. Like behavioral economics, when we take it into account, the domain of behavioral economics, we do get to know that it is a combination of economics and psychology to reshape our understanding of decision making. Cognitive neuroscience, what is it all about? It is the combination of psychology, biology, and neuroscience to explore the human brain. Again, talking about environmental studies, it brings together ecology, economics, law, and public policy to address about sustainability. So innovation frequently occurs at the boundaries rather than within the center of a single discipline. So that is what is actually being, that is the kind of an understanding which we will have to get through. So myself, this is a part while, and here, this is what has already been explained. Like when we talk about traditional research, it's definitely fragmented knowledge. Even when it has got disciplinary excellence, fragmented knowledge. But in interdisciplinary research, we have integrated knowledge, which will result in better solutions. In the later part of the session, we'll see it in detail. And talking about my research journey. So here, just allow me to briefly share my own journey. Actually, my primary academic discipline is commerce and marketing. Like many researchers, I also initially approached consumer behavior through very well established marketing theories. However, during my doctoral research on ethical consumerism, I was encountering a question that marketing alone could not fully answer. So why do consumers who express strong ethical values often fail to purchase ethically? So the answer was not entirely found in marketing. So psychology could give me clear explanations through exploring the interlinkages between cognition, affect, intent and behavior. Again, normative and descriptive ethical philosophies also provided me with ethical reasoning in consumers. So, behavioral science illuminated the gap between intention and action. Integrating these perspectives actually enabled me to construct a more comprehensive explanation of ethical consumer behavior. And that experience fundamentally transformed my understanding of research. So I truly realized that the most meaningful insights often emerge not within disciplinary boundaries, but across them. So it's actually like when we talk about interdisciplinary research, it became not merely a methodology, but a way of thinking. So this was actually my research journey. And of course, this is the first part of the session. So before moving on to the key takeaway, like I really wish the enlightened audience to just take a moment and ask yourself one question. Which discipline currently dominates your area of research? Which is the discipline which is dominating your area? Again, one second question is that which other discipline could deepen your understanding of the same problem? Which other discipline? If your problem can be very well understood in its depth by integrating theories from other disciplines, then please go ahead. So sometimes it might be from psychology, economics, artificial intelligence, or public policy, whatever it is. This one additional perspective is all that is needed to transform a good study into an outstanding one. So with this, throughout this session, we'll explore how interdisciplinary research has evolved. Why is it becoming indispensable for 21st century scholarship? Again, how theory triangulation strengthens conceptual development, and how this integrating of diverse perspectives enables us to create research that is just not academically rigorous, but at the same time, very, very socially relevant. So my hope is that by the end of this lecture, you will no longer view disciplines as isolated islands of knowledge. So instead, you'll have a true picture of, the magic of interconnection between disciplines, which will end up with deeper understanding of a problem, again, which will result in new innovations, and of course, it will end up with meaningful societal transformation. So here, as a philosopher, Aristotle wisely reminded us, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So interdisciplinary research embodies that principle, the very same principle. So when knowledge is integrated thoughtfully, the result is not merely more information. It's not just about creating more and more of information, but it is entirely new understanding. So now moving on to the second part of the session, let's talk about the concepts, evolution, the philosophical dimensions and the characteristics. So what actually interdisciplinary research truly means, and why it has become the defining paradigm of modern social science. So, yeah. So the next question again here is what exactly is interdisciplinary research? I hope all of you are listening. I'm still audible. I guess I'm still audible. Thank you for that response. Yeah. So, thank you, sir. Yeah. So the thing is before moving on to what is interdisciplinary research, I would like to mention about the beauty of what is research. This is something which is a personal favorite for myself. Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. So we are all saying the very same thing. We are reading the same thing, same words and everything, but we are thinking it in different perspectives. So that is the beauty of real research. So from this, let's move on to what is interdisciplinary research. So yes, interdisciplinary research is actually, I should say that it's often misunderstood as merely combining two or more disciplines. But in reality, it is far more profound. It is actually the intentional integration. It is the intentional integration of theories, concepts, methods, evidence, and analytical perspectives from different disciplines to develop new understanding. Again, to solve problems that cannot be adequately addressed by a single field alone. A single field alone cannot address the problems which we encounter with. So there lies the prominence of interdisciplinary research, wherein we are going to have an intentional integration of theories, methods, concepts, evidence, and analytical perspectives. So just mentioning about the word integration, like integration is very much different from addition. So it means that, if I place flour, eggs, sugar, and all of this stuff onto the table, these are all merely separate ingredients if I'm just placing it on the table. But when those ingredients, when it's been thoughtfully combined, there is a transformation which is happening right out there. So they become a cake. It becomes a cake. So that is something which is really new. It's an entirely new stuff. These ingredients are combined together to bring forth meaningful results. So this is what is being followed in interdisciplinary research too. It is not the coexistence of disciplines. It is the creation of new knowledge through meaningful integration. I hope you are along with me. Yeah. Thank you, Chandani. And now talking about the three approaches, the different approaches. To appreciate this interdisciplinarity, we must distinguish it from two other related approaches. So that's what has been mentioned here in the slide. So when talking about disciplinary research, it's like, if you can imagine a historian studying the Industrial Revolution. So the question which a historian raises here is might be how did historical events shape industrialization? But if a psychologist is examining the same period, the question might be a different one. It might be like, how did industrialization affect human behavior and their well-being? Again, when it is learned by an economist, the economics would be purely focusing on to how did these industrialization influence markets and productivity. So each of these perspectives, which I have mentioned in the example, is really valuable. Yet each remains very, very much confined to its own disciplinary lens. So that is disciplinary research. It provides depth. We are learning this from the perspective of a single discipline all alone, but it is learned in its depth. Again, talking about multidisciplinary research. So again, let's imagine there are three scholars presenting their findings, the findings of their study in the same seminar. So they listen to each other very much respectfully and they publish together. each maintains their own theoretical framework and methodology. So economics will be presenting their own theoretical framework and methodology from economics. Psychologists will be presenting the theoretical framework and methodology from psychology. So here the knowledge will only exist side by side. This is multidisciplinary research. So it provides breadth. Now talking about interdisciplinary research. So we have made it clear from the first part of the session that it is the integration, intentional integration of theories, methods, and concepts, analytical perspectives. So let me make it further clear that instead of merely presenting separate findings from economics, psychology, or history, here in interdisciplinary research, these scholars will start asking common questions actually. So what do is they borrow concepts from one another. They will borrow, let me make it very clear, let me make it in the quotes, that they borrow concepts from one another. So they integrate theories, there lies the beauty. They develop a shared conceptual framework. They're going to design a common methodology. The historian, psychologist, and economist, they're going to sit down and they're going to beautifully design a common methodology, a common conceptual framework. They're going to interpret the findings collectively instead of interpreting separately from the purview of an economist, psychologist, or historian. So the outcome will no longer be history, psychology, or economics in isolation. It becomes a very richer understanding that none of the disciplines could have produced independently. So this is interdisciplinary research. It creates synthesis. And this synthesis is something where innovation begins. We're going to bring forth something which is really new with societal implications. Here again, when we talk about all of these aspects, we often mention about research philosophy. But I would like to talk about this philosophical aspects in interdisciplinary angle again, from the lessons which I have gained from my own research journey on ethical consumerism. So the thing is before we decide how to conduct our research, we'll have to raise a fundamental question actually. And here goes the question that what kind of reality are we trying to understand? And once we answer that, the second question is, how can we know it? That is, how can we know this reality? That is the second question. So these two questions have actually shaped research for centuries. And this is actually, philosophers has clearly narrated these as ontology and epistemology. So when we learn about what kind of reality that is about ontology and how we're going to gain this knowledge about the reality is all about epistemology. So let me talk about the philosophical foundations of interdisciplinary research actually. So the thing has been made very simple, that why different disciplines see the same reality differently. They see the same reality but differently. And there lies the importance of integration of theories, concepts, methods. So the thing is does reality exist independently of us, or is reality constructed through human experiences? So again, when we view it from the purview of economics, they may view markets as objective systems. But psychologists, they focus on individual perceptions. Sociologists, again, they look up to the social structures, and philosophers will ask moral questions. So the thing is being made very clear that each discipline is studying the same world. They're studying the same world, but from different assumptions about reality. They study about the same world from their disciplinary lens, from the assumption of their discipline. So this leads naturally to the idea of ontological pluralism. So in interdisciplinary approach, it's like we just have one reality, but different assumptions about reality. Okay. So, to just give an example, if you imagine that an elephant is standing in the middle of a room. So, one researcher might be studying about its biological aspects, another will be learning about its economic value, and the next one might be studying about its symbolic meaning. The other one learns about the emotions which people feel towards this elephant. My question here is, has the elephant changed? Has the elephant changed? No, right? Because the reality remains the same. But what changes is the aspect of reality each discipline chooses to investigate. Because the investigation about the elephant is made by different humans from different domains of study, and they have their own assumptions, and the interpretations are made likewise. I think I'm clear. Is it fine? Dear audience, can you kindly respond? I hope the things have been made clear. Thank you. So this is the essence of ontological pluralism. And now talking about the epistemological diversity. So what do we have to talk about here is like if ontology asks what is reality, again, as mentioned before, epistemology asks how we know it, how we know the reality. So different disciplines, what do is like they have different routes to this knowledge. So some might be relying on experiments, sometimes some other branches of study will be relying on statistics or interviews, historical interpretations or philosophical reasoning. So each contributes a different kind of knowledge. So each of these aspects contribute different kind of knowledge. So again, there lies a beauty in it. And now, like the epistemological angle, we have it, learning it from interdisciplinary perspective. We have positivism and interpretivism. So it's like everyone knows, positivism is here the reality is objective, it exists independently of people. But in interpretivism, reality is subjective and shaped by people's experiences and interpretations. So I don't want to make a differentiation between these two. But when we learn from interdisciplinary angle, there is epistemological diversity from positivist, interpretivist, and critical traditions, which will lead towards integrative inquiry. So here, I just want to make a connection with my research actually. So in my research actually on ethical consumerism, I was trying to measure the different perspectives of ethical consumerism. It has got two different dimensions about ethical consumer behavior and consumer complaint behavior. So when I was learning about ethical consumer behavior, I wanted to know about the consumer's purchase intention as also their real, actual behavior. So it was through survey method that it was a way through which I have collected or gained knowledge. But yet, understanding moral responsibility and ethical reasoning required engagement with normative and descriptive ethical philosophies. So, integrating these perspectives. So, I'm integrating both of these aspects, that is, positivism and interpretivism. It produced a more comprehensive explanation that either approach could provide independently. So when this integration happens, the results also turns out to be really, very fruitful. So this is the basic things right out here. Now I would like to move on with the next aspect. So like how did interdisciplinary research emerge? So we know that for centuries, knowledge was not divided into rigid academic departments. So many of the early thinkers, they explored philosophy, mathematics, politics, ethics, and all together. But as knowledge expanded, universities organized learning into specialized disciplines. So this specialization is absolutely beneficial also. So that is how we resulted in remarkable advances in medicine, economics, engineering, and every domain of study. However, there was an unintended consequence also at the same time, because knowledge here becomes fragmented. Researchers became experts in increasingly narrow areas. So they are narrowing down their specializations. So as Nobel Prize winning biologist Edward O. Wilson argued that humanity accumulated extraordinary knowledge, but often in disconnected silos. Right. So meanwhile, society in itself is becoming more and more interconnected. We know that globalization is accelerated at its peak. Digital technologies have transformed completely communication. Climate change is a global concern. Artificial intelligence blurred distinctions between technology, ethics, and law or economics. So the problems evolve faster than our disciplinary boundaries. So interdisciplinary research emerges as a response not because disciplines failed. So please understand that it's not because disciplines failed, but because the questions themselves became more complex. So to deal with this complexity, it is very much essential to go for intentional integration of theories and methods from different disciplines. So now talking about the evolution, of course, the journey has got 4 stages, and the first stage is specialization, which we have talked right now. So researchers developed deep expertise within their own discipline. But the second stage is multidisciplinary collaboration. So this is something which we have explained in the beginning also, where experts from different fields, they will be working parallelly. They will be bringing forth results from their domain of study. That it is not the combination, there is no interpretation of findings in a combined way. Each of the subject experts, maybe from history, psychology, or environmental science, they have their own perspectives of findings. They have their own methodology. They have their own conceptual framework. But they work in parallel. The third stage is advanced to interdisciplinary integration. This is where these ideas, theories, and methods will be combined together so as to generate new knowledge. And so again, the final aspect is transdisciplinary. So today we are entering into a 4th stage also, that is where research increasingly engages with government, industries, communities, and civil society so as to address with the real world challenges. So that is how we bring forth very valuable outputs. So I think I can move ahead. So the basic characteristics of exceptional interdisciplinary research, the first thing is intellectual integration. So Researchers do not simply cite multiple disciplines. They weave them into a coherent explanation. So it's an intellectual work. It's an integration, which brings forth new knowledge. Again, it's problem orientation. Because rather than beginning with a discipline, here, what do the interdisciplinary researchers do is like, they begin with a very relevant societal issue. So, and that problem will determine which are the disciplines which are needed to be learned. Again, next aspect is methodological openness. So, complex questions often require diverse methods. We need to have a blend of quantitative, qualitative, computational, or philosophical, methodologies. Again, collaboration. Of course, interdisciplinary work thrives when researchers respect different forms of expertise. So, simply because they are all focusing towards a shared purpose, they're working towards a shared purpose. And finally, this innovation, that is, we are bringing forth new conceptual insights. Its goal is not merely to combine knowledge, but to transform it. And now let's talk about the power of interdisciplinary research. So the thing here is like, why does all this matter? The question here is like, why does all this matter? Because interdisciplinary research changes the very nature of discovery. It enables us to ask better questions. It reveals relationships which is invisible within their own disciplinary boundaries. Again, it challenges assumptions that have long been accepted without question. It encourages creativity too, because we are being put into unfamiliar ideas. And most importantly, it allows research to become much relevant to the society. So when we talk about ethical consumerism again, if we study it only through the lens of marketing, we just learn how consumers make purchasing decisions. But when we study, if we're studying it from the perspective of psychology all along, again, it will end up with merely learning of attitudes and intentions. Again, from philosophical angle, then we'll explore only the moral responsibility. But let me make it very specific that each of these disciplines have given valuable insights. But let's see, when these perspectives are integrated, when they are brought together, we will be having a richer explanation of why consumers think ethically, why they sometimes fail to act according to their values. Again, half the policymakers or half the business strategies can be reformulated in a way that it can encourage more responsible behavior from the part of consumers. So the integrated perspective provides answers that none of the individual disciplines could fully achieve alone. And this is the true power of interdisciplinary thinking. So, So this is the thing, that the key takeaway, of course, that interdisciplinary research is not about abandoning your own discipline, right? So we need to have an in-depth learning, definitely. Depth plus breadth is equal to impact. It is about strengthening our own discipline by allowing it to learn from other disciplines. But let me make it again very clear that depth remains essential. But depth without connection can become isolation. Breadth without depth can become superficiality. So the future belongs to researchers who combine both of these aspects. Those who master their own discipline, but at the same time building meaningful intellectual bridges across others. This will be best positioned to address the complex challenges of our century. I hope you're along with me. Can you follow me? Okay, thank you. And now moving on to the third aspect, that is theory triangulation in action. So, as already mentioned, we told in interdisciplinary research, we have an intentional integration of theories, methods, concepts, and all of this stuff. Here, in very specifically, I'm talking about theory integration. So, how do we actually integrate disciplines in a rigorous and scholarly manner? So this leads us to one of the most powerful approaches in contemporary social science, that is theory triangulation. So here in this session, I'll show you how theory triangulation can transform these fragmented ideas from different disciplines into robust conceptual frameworks. With example from my own research. So yeah, how do we actually integrate these multiple disciplines without creating confusion and without creating or losing without losing this academic rigor, right? Sir, BETKAR sir, I couldn't follow your message. Is there anything to be communicated, sir? Yeah, fine. So what do I want to tell you is let's move on to, it's not just a random collection of ideas. This interdisciplinary research is not just a random collection of ideas. It should be really a very systematic process and theoretically coherent and methodologically robust also. So one of the most powerful ways to reach to this outcome is theory triangulation. Okay, so here let me talk about basically what is theory triangulation all about. And this is the three aspects. What is theory triangulation? So when researchers hear the word triangulation, so many immediately think of using multiple methods or multiple sources of data. So we have that angle as well. We have methodological triangulation. But here I'm talking about theory triangulation. That is something which is very much different from methodological triangulation. So theory triangulation involves using multiple theoretical perspectives to understand the same phenomenon. So the same phenomenon will be learned from multiple lenses. So each of the theory from different disciplines will illuminate a different dimension of reality. So let's take the example of a magnificent sculpture. If you're observing the sculpture from the front, your understanding will definitely be incomplete. But if you're walking around it, it reveals new contours, hidden details, and the perspectives which were previously invisible. But the point here is, the sculpture has not changed, but your understanding has, because you are learning it you're synthesizing it. So theory triangulation works in exactly the same way. So instead of relying on one theoretical lens, what do is we deliberately examine a phenomenon through multiple complementary lenses. So here the goal is not to replace one theory with another, but to integrate their strengths into a more comprehensive explanation. We are not replacing one theory with another theory from another discipline. But what are we doing here is we are integrating the strength of both the theories together so that we are bringing forth new knowledge, which has got societal implication, which gives a comprehensive explanation to a complex problem. So again, why this theory triangulation? This is something which is less explored in social science research actually. But complex human behavior, what do we have to learn or understand is that, of course, in social science, we learn about human behavior. And it's very complex. And again, the complex human behavior rarely has a single cause. So that should be our level of understanding. So consumer decisions are shaped simultaneously by by their cognitive thoughts, emotions. They might be influenced by the society, cultural norms. They'll be having different kinds of economic constraints. Again, moral. It will have an impact on their moral values as well. So here, if we attempt to explain such complexity using only just one theory, our understanding inevitably becomes partial. So this is where the beauty of theory triangulation emerges. It allows us to acknowledge that human behavior is multidimensional. So when I learned the ethical consumerism from the perspective of ethical consumer behavior and consumer complaint behavior, I had an understanding that it is multidimensional. So rather than asking which theory is correct, we ask what unique insight does each theory contribute? And how can these insights be meaningfully integrated into a new knowledge? So there lies the strength of interdisciplinary research too. I hope it's been made clear. Is this okay? So as mentioned, I told you before, like any other marketing researcher, I also started the learning of ethical consumerism with traditional consumer behavior theories itself. But these theories explained how consumers is evaluating their products and being purchased, and how do they develop purchase intentions and end up with decisions. So, yet, as I reviewed the literature and analyzed the empirical evidence, I encountered a persistent puzzle actually. So many consumers, they express strong ethical concerns. They have so much concern towards environment. They support fair trade, and they strongly believe that companies are behaving very much responsibly. But when they come into the store to make a purchase, they will end up with the purchase of conventional products. So this is absolutely a contradictory viewpoint. So this ended up with ethical intention behavior gap. So I analyzed that marketing theories alone could not fully explain this, because I learned the ethical aspects. So I need to have the moral reasoning backing the same. So I explored the descriptive behavioral ethics. So that was a turning point of my research. So there are a lot of, apart from economical constraints, there are psychological impacts again. So instead of searching another marketing model, uh, th- I, I was into a different question, that what if the answer lies beyond marketing? So this is the main aspect here again. And now looking beyond one discipline, of course. That single question opens the door to this interdisciplinary inquiry. In my research, it was psychology which opened up the doors or the insights into cognition, affect, intention, and of course, the real actual purchase behavior, ethical behavior. At the same time, ethical philosophies introduce the concepts of moral responsibility, different kinds of ethical philosophies, virtue ethics, ethical egoism, ethical altruism, deontological ethics, and marketing contributed theories of consumer decision making. So, individually, every of these disciplines provided valuable insights. They were talking about the same reality from different perspectives. But collectively, they revealed something much deeper. So, the integration of these perspectives actually allowed me to conceptualize ethical consumerism not just simply as a purchasing decision, but as a form of moral agency, a process in which consumers, they express their personal values through marketplace choices. So, this will enhance the theoretical and practical significance of our research work. disciplines to include the psychological constructs, philosophical aspects, and marketing. From marketing. So this was one of the learning from my study. These elements were not treated as isolated variables, actually. They were being treated as interconnected components of a unified explanation. So, cognition actually influences ethical evaluation, and this will shape the purchase intention of the consumers. And perceived behavioral control, which is a psychological construct, moderates this translation of this cognition into intention. So rather than competing with one another, the theories actually complemented one another. And that is the true essence of theory triangulation. So, yeah. With this, we have some more aspects. This is the way in which I have proceeded with my journey, like the philosophical insights plus the reality in philosophy was different from psychology and again in marketing, but it was when it was integrated together, the holistic model was developed for exploring ethical consumerism, which is here mentioned as the preventive dimension of ethical consumerism. And in the beginning itself, I have mentioned that my research was basically centered around two dimensions of ethical consumerism. One was the ethical consumer behavior, which is a preventive dimension of ethical consumerism, and the other one was consumer complaint behavior, which is a curative dimension of ethical consumerism. So, yeah, this is actually my journey, and now talking about the practical significance. So, of course, it means beyond academia, quite a lot actually, because for business, again for policymakers, educators, researchers, and all, a lot of significant, valuable outcomes can be brought forth. Because for business, from my own research, when I talk about it, suggests that promoting ethical products require more than advertising just merely the basic product features. So companies must build trust. They have to communicate their values, and they will have to reduce the practical barriers which will prevent the consumers from exhibiting the real behavior after once they showcase the intent to make an ethical purchase. Again, for policymakers, it demonstrates the regulations alone are insufficient, because they will have to foster, the policy-making bodies will have to foster awareness, accessibility, and very much supportive environment that will make ethical choices easier. For educators, it highlights the importance of cultivating ethical reasoning alongside consumer knowledge. It's not just enough to give consumer knowledge, but it's truly valuable to cultivate ethical reasoning in the minds of children. Again, for researchers, it illustrates how integrating disciplines will generate more comprehensive explanations, again about more complex behaviors. So, as a nutshell, the interdisciplinary research does not simply expand theory, it enhances practice too. So broader case studies apart from ethical consumerism is like wherein we can use theory triangulation is like you can learn it in climate change, in environmental science, economics, political science, psychology, communication studies. So when every of these disciplines, when the insights from the disciplines are integrated, then society is design effective. If you're learning about climate change, it's like there are a lot of disciplines from which we can learn a lot of things, right? As mentioned just before, from economics, from political science angle, or from psychological angle, all we can learn. But the beauty or the magic actually lies in the integration of the different perspectives. That is how these are the case studies actually. Like again, it can be applied in public health, because in public health, when we talk about this, like in medical science, identifies diseases. Behavioral science explains adherence to treatment. So, economics evaluates resource allocation. It's the public policy which determines implementation. So meaningful solutions emerges through integration rather than going in isolation. So since my domain of study was ethical consumerism, I was focusing on to the very specific example from the same area. And of course, moving into the last part, it's like lessons for young researchers, definitely. Like if I were to offer one piece of advice to the emerging researchers, it would be this one, that never become imprisoned by the boundaries of your own discipline. But you have to master your field. We have to respect its theories, understand its methods, but remain intellectually curious. You have to read beyond your discipline. You have to go beyond your discipline. Attend conferences outside your comfort zone. You have to collaborate with scholars who are thinking differently. So the most innovative ideas often emerge where diverse perspectives is going to intersect. Okay, so the key takeaway here is that, of course, that interdisciplinary research begins not with multiple disciplines, but with intellectual humility, actually. The willingness to recognize that no single discipline has all the answers. Right. So the theory triangulation actually taught me an important lesson, because knowledge does not become stronger because we accumulate more theories. It becomes stronger when theories are thoughtfully integrated into a coherent explanation. So the objective of interdisciplinary research is not complexity for its own sake. It is clarity. It seeks to illuminate what individual theories cannot fully explain alone. That is why these kinds of research has become one of the defining characteristics of high-impact scholarship in the 21st century. And finally, the future of interdisciplinary research, from knowledge integration to societal transformation. Yes, the future of social science research. So, yes, dear audience, we are witnessing one of the most significant transformations in the history of research. So the boundaries that once separated disciplines are gradually becoming bridges that connect them together. So the future of social science will not be defined by the number of disciplines we study, but it will be defined by our own ability to integrate knowledge across disciplines to address problems that matter. Okay, so tomorrow's researchers will not just simply ask what is happening around, but they will ask why is it happening? So how do different systems interact? What practical solutions can improve human lives? So these are the interdisciplinary questions lying ahead. So this requires, that intellectual curiosity so as to develop this kind of a mindset. Now emerging frontiers, of course, when we imagine the research landscape 10 years from now, artificial intelligence, big data, climate change, healthcare, and all of this, digital platforms and all of this, it's not confined to single discipline all along, right? Artificial intelligence, when we talk about this same, it needs ethics. Big data will require sociology. Of course, climate change. Right from the beginning, we were quoting the example of climate change. It requires economics, environmental science, again, psychology and political science. So digital innovation requires technology. It will demand law, behavioral science, and public policy. So the future is going to reward only those researchers who are intellectually agile. Those who are willing to learn continuously and collaborate across boundaries. So publication strategies again for young researchers is as mentioned before, we have to have a strong foundation in our own discipline, because interdisciplinary excellence actually begins with disciplinary excellence. You cannot integrate knowledge effectively without first understanding your own field deeply. Second is read beyond your discipline. We have to read beyond our discipline. let's read journals, articles from journals that challenge our assumptions. Explore theories you have never encountered before. So, one of the most innovative research questions emerge from unexpected intellectual encounters. So, again, to design research around significant societal problems. So, rather than around disciplinary comfort zones, we can focus it on to significant societal problems. So, high impact journals will increasingly value originality and thus integration. A study that merely repeats existing work within the same discipline may struggle to attract attention, but the one which thoughtfully integrates different perspectives from different disciplines to address a social phenomenon, a relevant social problem, will have a greater chance of making a meaningful contribution. Of course, again, it's very much essential to collaborate wisely. So you have to see collaborators who complement your expertise rather than duplicating it. And finally, there should be intellectual booklism, because fluent in the language of your own discipline while learning to communicate effectively with scholars from other domains of study too. So, of course, beyond publications, of course, our research should end up with informed policy. We have to improve the practice, of course, empowering communities. So these are all very, very, very crucial and essential, and contributing to the common good of the people. So that should be the main aim of our research. So I strongly believe that interdisciplinary research provides us with a pathway to achieve precisely all of this, goals. So this is again my own lessons from my own journey. So when I first explored this ethical consumerism, I told you, I came to understand that it's not just marketing which is all enough to bring forth valuable outcomes. So that is how I have been thinking beyond the boundaries, actually, which led me to read articles from psychology, from philosophy, again to talk to professors from different domains of study, which led me to theory triangulation and interdisciplinary research. So the lesson was simple but profound. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries are found not where we begin our search, but where our questions take us. And that experience transformed not only my research, but also the way I understand knowledge itself. So the 5 key takeaways to conclude with is that, complex societal problems definitely requires integrated thinking. No single discipline possesses all the answers to the questions. Secondly, interdisciplinarity does not weaken disciplinary identity. It only strengthens it through meaningful dialogue and collaboration. Thirdly, theory triangulation enriches conceptual development, and it enables researchers to generate more comprehensive explanations. Again, the most impactful research connects academic rigor with societal relevance. So that's something which has to be taken into account and which is the need of the hour. Knowledge should not remain confined to libraries and journals. It should improve lives. It should improve the common good. So finally, never stop being intellectually curious. So curiosity is the engine of discovery, for no doubt, and it is what leads us beyond boundaries. It transfers information into understanding and transforms researchers into innovators. And yes, disciplines on one side, societal challenges on the other, and interdisciplinary research is the bridge. One final closing note is that is a final reflection. So the future does not belong to those who know the most about one discipline. It belongs to those who can connect knowledge across disciplines to create solutions which will improve society. So that's something which is very, very, very crucial here, because The ending note is that knowledge becomes wisdom when connected, and research becomes meaningful when it serves humanity. So, with this, let me end my session. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to me for this one. I have crossed 1 hour time. And yes, I know that I'm addressing an enlightened audience, for which I'm truly honored. So let's think beyond boundaries. Let's build bridges. Let's transform our society. So thank you. Thank you all once again. Sir, I think I have crossed the time. Sir, I cannot hear you actually. Sir, am I audible? Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes, now you're audible to me, sir. Oh, sir, I have to join from another device.
Good evening, Dr. BETKAR, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much for a very important session regarding, we should have borderless, world, and we should not have any kind of boundaries as such. And the interdisciplinary research when we are doing, there are two streams are coming together, and they are they are going for research. So definitely, it requires a lot of efforts to understand each other. You'll find there are a number of scientific, technical things which we have to understand. Then only we can go with an interdisciplinary approach. I'm working with a medical field, and I'm a homeopath basically, and I have done research with the dental people. So, we have collaboration with the Dental Medical College and my college. And then we had a wonderful, session on dental and hypersensitivity and gingivitis and so on. But, what happened, during the study, we got opportunity to learn so many aspects, different aspects about the dental hypersensitivity and gingivitis and so many things. Same thing you'll find we have done with agriculture also nowadays, home agriculture we are working out, and we are taking help of the farmers, botanists, and we have cultivated mushrooms also with medicinal sprinkling. So disciplinary, when we are going for interdisciplinary, I think that when we are doing a kind of it is not a parallel exactly. Sometimes it may be 20-80%, sometimes 50-50% collaboration, sometimes technical collaboration what we are taking help of. So all this plays a wonderful role. My question is, very important question is, when we are coming together, right, both the streams are different. What exact steps we should involve because we have to sit together, we have to do brainstorming, we have to plan, then we have to develop proposal, and we have to see the pros and cons in the future. And many of the time it happens that theoretically we are very sound, but when we start implementing it, number of difficulties comes in between, right? About the medicines, about their reactions, about their other aspects. So what do you think about this? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Uh, yeah, sir, you're from medical field. Yeah, anyway, sir, very happy to hear that even like in medicine too, you're taking up initiatives for exploring, the different interdisciplinary angles. So definitely, sir, of course, you have identified these kinds of complex problems and the relevant disciplines, medicine and, you were talking about agriculture, right, sir? Yes. So basically, my idea, or I was very specifically focusing on the theory triangulation because that was my area of specialization, in fact. But as, sir, you have rightly mentioned, there are different ways in which this intentional integration can be performed. You can look forward towards methodological perspectives, thinking beyond the boundaries. So even when you are collaborating and doctors or the ones from agriculture, when they come together, there is a true collaboration. But even then, what do I strongly believe is like, we need to have an understanding, like we need to have that intellectual curiosity to learn the theoretical perspectives from the other discipline as well. Because when, as a medical practitioner, when you learn about agriculture, you will be learning it from a perspective of a doctor. But an agriculturist, but they, or the ones from this domain of study, they'll be having one another perspective of learning the same. So when you learn this from your angle, definitely, so you can bring forth wonderful outcomes actually, because that medicine can be very beautifully combined with this, from the knowledge from different domains of study, as you have clearly mentioned. So that there lies the actual beauty actually. So when we talk about collaboration, yeah, definitely we need to collaborate because they are in every domain of study. There are intellectual dominant figures. So definitely we have to have good intellectual deliberations with them. But at the same time, when we specialize, when we have a depth disciplinary knowledge in our domain of study, it will be very easy for us to get connected with the other domains with regard to our specific problem. So that is how I really do feel that we have to move ahead. Then we can bring forth outstanding results.
Yes, thank you very much. I remember in Maharashtra there was a lumpy skin disease for the cattle, and with the help of veterinary government doctors, we have worked out in a Nashik district for this lumpy skin disease veterinary practice. So we were moving because the patients usually they comes to doctor and it is easy, but when it is a veterinary, we realize that we have to visit their place. They cannot carry those cattle up to that level. So we have to go, if there is a case of a lumpy skin disease, we have to go over there. We have to find out what kind of lesions are there and what kind of, help we can give it to them. So really, it gives opportunity to learn some and explore some other aspects of medicines. And no doubt the science will develop with the interdisciplinary action. So thank you very much. It is very, very important. And when we are really, conducting and organizing this, there are challenges. No doubt, we should not say difficulties, but challenges, and we should overcome with the challenges. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. So once again, let me extend my sincere thanks to you, sir. This is indeed a great opportunity for me as an academician and a researcher to take part in the international webinar series, and definitely it's been focused on the women empowerment. So I think I really do wish and pray that your endeavor might reach to its peak. So thank you, dear audience too. Thank you so much. Wishing you all a good night. So I think we can leave.